Hey everybody. Okay, now I hate to tell you, some of you people out there that really, really love these albums. I mean, these cover albums, of course. That's done by Bob Dylan, and of course I'm going to be talking about. Now, I really hate to say this, but I am definitely not. I really, really like, and like I'm going to say here, I truly, truly respect Bob Dylan for doing something like this. You know what I mean? Because I know a lot of rockers where we're trying to change their style a bit and try to, do the folky, and then, doing like a whole covers album kind of thing. And, well, who can you thank for that? Well, I guess you can thank Ringo Starr. Because Ringo Starr in 1970, if you go back 55 years ago, you can trace it back to to Ringo Starr's album that was called Sentimental Journey. And it was basically an all standards album. It was basically like kind of really the first like American songbook album, if you will, full of, well, crooner songs. It had stuff like Stardust, and it had the song Sentimental Journey, which, years later, especially like Rod Stewart, which I have almost the whole collection of his Great American Songbook albums. I remember the last time I visited my grandma, she's like, tell me, here, please take these Rod Stewart CDs. I don't really need them anymore. I don't really listen to them anymore. There's the Great American Songbook Volume 1, 2, 3, 4 in a single set, kind of like a box set kind of thing. And then he had and then there's like a soul book album thing. And it's like, I really give it to somebody like him, and I give it to even Paul McCartney with his Kisses from the Bottom or whatever. I think that's what the album was called, or whatever. It was kind of like an all standards thing. I mean, that's what it is. Great American, whatever. I really, really pay my respects to those who, and it's, hey, go for it. You know what I mean? Like, go for that kind of thing. Go for it, because it'll attract many of the older people that love that kind of stuff, and that'll actually sell pretty good. I mean, at least some of those. I mean, especially with the Rod Stewart. Are you kidding me? I mean, he pretty much he made like millions upon millions of trillions of dollars basically from the sales of those American Songbook albums. And here we go with Bob Dylan, starting off in 2015 with Shadow in the Night. That was just a single album, and then he comes out with Fallen Angel the next year, and then Triplicate, which was a triple album of all standard songs. Yeah, Shadows in the Night came out February the 3rd, 2015. Then Fallen Angels, which preceded the Shadows. Yeah, Shadows in the Night, May 20th of 2016. And then also Triplicate, which came out early 2017. Which was pretty much, I think it was like a 3D, but a 3-disc set or whatever of pretty much all standard stuff. Now, I mean, at least with the sound of those albums are like fantastic. I definitely got to give it to Dylan there for really making those albums really sound really, really good. I mean, it's got the people, you got your Tony Garnier, you got those people that were playing on Rough and Rowdy Ways, and what's the other one? It came, the trilogy, or at least his comeback years there, and then he had the one that I reviewed kind of recently. I think it was, this isn't in here. Oh yeah, Tempest, duh. So it's got people from Tempest or whatever, even going back to Together Through Life too as well. But I don't know, but it's crazy to me, because when I hear that kind of stuff, I want to listen to somebody like Johnny Mathis, and in fact, Johnny Mathis is my favorite crooner. Plain and simple. He is my favorite crooner, and I have almost all of his albums. Well, not all of his albums, but I have that set which has like the Mercury years or whatever, and then I got another set which features some of his classic Columbia albums, his earlier Columbia albums. And I think he's a fantastic crooner. And I love Frank Sinatra, of course, and Tony Bennett, and somebody like Jack Jones, you know. But, you know, I think, honestly, how I feel about it, or at least how I feel about these albums, I'd rather just listen to those people rather than listening to Bob Dylan doing that kind of thing, you know. And I gotta say, a lot of those songs are perfectly great. I mean, it's got great. I mean, you're getting anything with Bob Dylan, you're getting perfect production. You're getting like that really great, almost real sounding production, you know. But I mean, when I'm hearing stuff from Fallen Angel and I'm hearing stuff from Shadows in the Night and Triplicate and all that, they almost seem to blend in with one another, and it just seems like it's very repetitive a little bit, you know. There are some interesting parts to some of those songs or whatever, but it's just like, oh God, it really starts to really, you know what I mean? It starts really getting quite annoying. Well, you know what I mean? I can't really say annoying, but at least it gets very frustrating, you know, and it makes me want to really just turn the whole album off and listen to something else, you know, listen to some other Bob Dylan. To be honest, I'd rather listen to Self-Portrait, believe it or not. I mean, I know I feel a little bit, I know I feel rebellious of just saying that, but, you know, but honestly, I don't know, maybe I just don't have that taste of some of that kind of stuff, you know, or, you know, listening to Rod Stewart doing it, or who else was kind of blended into that kind of Great American Songbook? I know somebody else did, some other rocker. I mean, I know Paul McCartney, obviously. But, you know, God, I'm trying to think who else did it, you know. But, you know, there's nothing I can really say. You know, in fact, I wasn't going to really do this at first. You know, I really just didn't. I was like planning on really not doing these albums and rather just go right into Rough and Rowdy Ways. But, you know, I need to kind of say something about these albums, you know. And obviously these are not, you know, and again, it's kind of like the early 90s with Bob Dylan doing, you know, Good As I've Been to You, like those folk cover albums that he was doing. You know, but, you know, power to Bob Dylan, but, you know, I'm just definitely not crazy over these albums, you know. And especially when you get to Triplicate, it's like, oh my, they blended, it just seems like they all kind of roll in with one another and they just sound pretty much alike, you know. But, you know, if you like the Triplicate and you like all that kind of stuff, hey, you know, but for me, I'm definitely not, it's just not my taste, you know. Maybe there's people out there who love that, you know, who love that kind of thing, you know. And of course, there's that, which I don't think wasn't on any of those albums or whatever, but it was kind of a standalone song he did called, it was a cover song from the early 60s, I believe, called You Belong to Me. I don't know if anyone remember that cover. But, you know, it's strange to me because I think if you trace back with Bob Dylan doing that kind of thing or whatever, at least doing the Great American Songbook, you know, folky and blues kind of thing, you can actually really trace it back to his Freewheelin' album where he covered the Crooner song from a song that was done in the 20s actually, you know. You know, and it was like an old blues kind of Great American Songbook kind of tune, if you will, you know. But yeah, nothing really else I can really add on. It's just, hey, I mean, if you like the Bob Dylan era during this mid-2010s period there where he's taking a little bit of a hiatus, or at least taking, you know, where he's kind of going through another writer's block kind of, you know. Hey, power to you guys, but, you know, again, not a fan. But anyways, folks, I hope you hope you guys have a great day. You know, today's Sunday. You know, I try to, you know, stay at home and try to, you know, reflect or whatever, because, you know, because the next day it's like I go back to work and then it's like I face reality, you know. But anyways, hope you enjoy this video. But again, take care. If you like the Great American Songbook, hey, great to know. I mean, let me know in the comments. And you know, my next one will be Bob Dylan's latest album, which was 5 years from now, or 5 years ago already. Rough and Rowdy Ways. Can't wait to review that. It's a great album. Definitely a great, for what I've heard from a lot of people. But you know, can't wait to talk about it. Okay, folks, take care. Bye bye.